your kids are alive. Your kids are alive. And you right now are in a space where you are doing as much as you possibly can. And that is good enough. That is good enough.
I'm Lisa Bilyeu, and I went from housewife to co-founder of the billion-dollar company Quest Nutrition, and now president of Impact Theory. Our mission with this show is to empower you and all women to recognize that you really can become the hero of your own life. Welcome to Women of Impact. The year was 2008. Now this was before we started Quest, so at this point I'd already assumed my role as a stay-at-home wife. And after 6 years of marriage, Tom and I were ready to start a family. But before we did, we both were very keen to openly discuss what we were getting into. It was important for us to both know that we were on the same page about what type of parents we wanted to be. But we actually had no clue where to start. We didn't actually know what to really expect until we stumbled on a show where families struggling to discipline their kids would call in an expert. A modern day Mary Poppins, if you will. And she was sweeping more than just chimneys, she was sweeping the nation. But she definitely was not offering a spoonful of sugar. She was instead offering a dose of real hard truth. The truth about what it takes to bring actual harmony to the family dynamic. And so, in real time, Tom and I would sit there and discuss the issue at hand and be honest about how we would react in that situation. This then brought up deeper conversations. What religion, if any, would they be? Do we agree on no spanking? Who is going to be the prime caretaker? And what would that actually look like? Like, on an average Wednesday, what would that look like? Who would get up in the middle of the night? Who would take them to school? We asked questions after questions after questions. We wanted to make sure we had thought through every single scenario. And you know what, guys? Never, not once, did either of us ever ask what we would do if there was a pandemic and we were all quarantined at home together for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. And yet, here we are, with approximately 9 out of 10 children out of school worldwide. Guys, that's about 1.5 billion kids at home right now. That's an awful lot of parents in scenarios they're just not freaking prepared for. And so today I wanted to bring on an expert who can help guide every single person, you out there who is at home right now struggling from overwhelm, guilt, anxiety, and the stress of how to navigate being a parent, being a good parent in this new world. And, well, there's only one supercalifragilisticexpialidocious person I can think of. But guys, be warned, there is no easy answer or magic trick. She's not going to be pulling umbrellas or floor lamps out of a handbag to solve problems. But instead, she's going to do what she does best and give actual, real life, no sugar added tips and tactics parents can use immediately to get through these times. So guys, please help me in welcoming the woman who has been a staple in our living rooms for over 15 years. Nominated for the International Emmy Award and the TV Guide's People Choice Award, the world's most well-known parent expert, a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and television personality, known as the Kid Whisperer, the Supernanny herself, Jo Frost.
What's up, homie?
Wow, that was an intro.
Girl, I have been so obsessed with you for over 10 years. Literally, now Tom and I actually had decided to not have children, but that brought us clarity from just watching your show. So I am so fangirling out right now. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And so where I really want to start is something that, so my company, Impact Theory, we do multiple things. We do the non-fiction content, which are these interviews that are super empowering. We also want to empower younger kids. And so we have a graphic division where we do graphic novels and comic books, all to tell stories that can empower kids. Now, why children? Because we understand that the age of imprint, the time that kids are most susceptible, is between 11 and 15 years of age, approximately. And so in this time, when I think about the parents that have kids between 11 and 15, I would love to help give them tools in order to navigate this situation right now. So my first question to you is, what can parents do with kids around 11 to 15? What words can they use? What language can they use in order to explain what is going on right now so that they don't grow up to be people who are just fearful of the world, scared of death, scared of contact. So yeah, let's start there.
It's a lot, it's a lot, because we're challenged every day, and we're challenged with having to let go of so much and to surrender to the fact that we are taking each day as it comes a stepping stone in waiting on the importance of the facts from those scientists, from those with the knowledge, from the organizations, whether it's CDC, the WHO, our governors in state, to be able to take those guidelines and to cohere to the advice that's being given to keep us safe. And I think the reality is, and always will be, in being able to collect the facts first, in knowing how we protect and keep our kids safe. What I don't want is parents beating themselves up constantly, because the reality is, and the facts are, we do not have a vaccine yet. We will, but not yet. And we have seen the alarming, shocking, and tragic numbers of that death toll. So I think it's important to be able to recognize, what can we control? When we wake up every day, it is a choice of how we are going to accept the day, and what we are going to ebb and flow with, and what we are going to lay down for ourselves so that we can remain productive and well. So it's important to be able to recognize the age of the child, and to recognize what they do know. What the first thing is, what do they know? To be able to distinguish fact from, myth busting, if you will, right? And to be able to sift through that with your child according to not just their birth age, but most importantly, their maturity, their emotional age. And I think that's important for parents to understand the difference between the two. And once they have done that, then it's being able to sift through that information and making it age appropriate for that child, and validating how they're feeling right now. And I would say for most parents, you want to be able to give the answers. You want to be able to make your child feel better. You want to be able to make it disappear. You don't want them to hurt. You want to protect. You want to take it all on yourself. But it's a time to be honest in recognizing that we don't really know the answers to some things that they may ask right now. And to recognize that if we can let go of that and tell our kids age appropriately what we do know, then we can keep them informed. We can make them feel very validated with how they feel, and then get busy with empowering our children to learn how to jump over those hurdles in a space that allows them to feel mentally well and resilient. And that takes steps. It takes a process of steps and techniques and tools and a ritual of practice in order to gain that resilience for each family. And it's not done in a week. It's done over weeks, over months. I talk about the importance for families having a routine, because a routine allows us to be productive in our day. It allows us to meet the needs of what's required, whether that's homeschooling, certainly whether it's making sure that our children are moving, are keeping themselves active, are engaged in the online social aspects of connecting with their peers and their friends, because the age from 11 to 15 is a time where it's all about peer groups and socialization. you
Well,
know.
that actually brings up a very interesting question then. So I love the steps by steps that you just gave, right? So step one is find out what they know. So ask them questions, find
Correct.
out what the truth is, taking those two, assessing their age appropriateness, and then discussing it with them based on those issues. Love that. So now what happens though? Your friends, your kids' friends are Skyping, they're Zooming with their friends. Let's say another parent or another kid is actually bringing the fear into the circle because you have no control over how other people parent their children. So
Right.
what would you suggest in those situations where you're so conscious about how you're, talking to your child, but there's this external force, maybe it's their friends, maybe it's they're watching the news, they're grabbing the iPad when you're not looking, and they're hearing all this other stuff. How would you advise parents to handle those situations?
Well, I think there's several choices. And one is to be able to bring a limitation to the people who are creating this magnified concern and worry, so that you can regulate that amount of exposure to your child. And that would be no different if I was telling you that you had a friend who was always a worrywart, was always blowing everything out of proportion, was always seeing the negative, was always draining. I would say to you, 20 minutes max, and nicely wrap that conversation up, because it's having an impact with you. And I think there are several ways in looking at this. One, how do we minimize the exposure and the impact on our children, but still allowing them to engage and have fun and enjoy the friendships that they have? How can we go beyond that? And I'm hoping if those parents have connections with their children's talking, that this is the time now where we can have a connection with their parents. And perhaps we can reach out as parents and help those parents from those children who may be really anxious, because parents can project a lot of how they feel themselves onto their children at that age. And children of that age, hormonally or not, have many questions, are certainly questioning everything that's going on around them with everyone who's in their lives. We are not the central box of their lives. They have lots of other influences in many different ways. And maybe it's a time where we can reach out and think, well, maybe that parent, could do with a talk from us. Maybe they could lend an ear, or we could give them some soothing words that actually may help their anxiety at this moment, because we're seeing that from the child and the child is conveying that to our child. So it's a moment for us to reach out to other parents and to be there for them, and to give them maybe a 10-minute phone call. Hey, our children speak so much, they're really good friends. I wanted to take time to say hi and how are you doing? It's tough, right? It's tough. And opening up the gateway, the doors of being able to bring us all to a place of feeling very comfortable without stigma, so we can help others. We can contain and regulate that amount of time. But what we also can do, and I'm a really big believer in making sure that we can spend time in grounding ourselves, grounding our children. I think meditation is incredibly important, or whether you want to call it meditation, whether you want to call it thinking time, whether you just want to call it stillness and calming time, whatever the language, the word that empowers you as a family, that brings a positive spin and visual to the practice that you do, would be wonderful as a ritual to do as a family, so that there's a moment of quiet, there's a moment of being able to breathe in through your nose, and you're using your diaphragm correctly, and to exhale, and to be able to push out, and to take a moment to still and to calm the body, to ground us, to put things into perspective, to give opportunity to talk to those that have those concerns in our family, our children, and to allow us to be able to take that bubble that looks so big right now, and to just visually, through conversation, shrink it, so that it becomes not so overwhelming, to a place that it has you crippled in fear, because it's fear. It's the fear that has everybody crippled right now. It's the going 10 steps ahead and not staying present. And a meditation, a thinking pod, a space of calm, whether it's individually or together as a family, brings us to a place of being able to put things into perspective so that actually we can focus on gratitude. We can focus on what we're thankful for. We can focus on what we do have. We can focus on our own emotions and others and check in with ourselves. And that really is the core of being able to make sure that an entire family is working on the same page to wellness. Because when we can really instill that core value, it will make everything else a lot easier. So I ask you to take just 2 minutes of courage to just step forward in the face of fear, which is to embrace your vulnerability, because right now we're all vulnerable, you know, and to recognize that if I just give this a go, what's the outcome? You know, I recognize I have to let go of a lot. And I think that's been difficult for a lot of families because they've had to let go of and come to a place of acceptance pretty quickly. And some are still living in that space of not quite accepting what is happening. The first several weeks were pandemonium. You know, everybody was stockpiling and families were in a space of tizzy. They were going around, you know, this tornado, the eye of the storm. What do I do? I don't know what to do. Where's the navigation? Where's the guide? Calm. Let's take a moment just to stand still and just watch everything in slow motion that's happening, which is a technique that I teach to families called the SOS. Stop, observe, step back. And when you step back in with a decision.
Oh.
Even if you say, but I don't want to make the wrong decision. We all make wrong decisions, but make a decision. Don't freeze, make a decision.
I love that so much. Like, I'd rather move forward in the wrong direction than not move forward at all. But here's a question for you then. In those situations, what if you're the person, so I'm watching you and I'm like, Joe Frost said SOS, I'm going to do it. So I do SOS, but my partner isn't on board. My partner is still anxious. My partner is still pessimistic, using words that I don't think they should be using around the kids. How do we unite? Because I am so with you as a family. That's something you kept coming back to, right? Every time you do something, come back as a family, unite, do it as a team. How do you suggest people navigate those situations where you're working so hard on yourself, but your partner isn't on board? Or can't get on board because of some emotion they're going through?
Well, I think it's important to understand that they're, you know, our partners are not us, you know, and so I ask those partners to have empathy, to have compassion, to take a moment to recognize that even as a family, we're all still individually going through our own journey. And it's a moment to take a moment in being able to come together and to communicate with compassion, in being able to say, you know, what's worrying you right now? Like, I want to listen. I don't want to fix. I want to listen, because what you feel is just as important as everybody else's. You know, parents are challenged with that because they're either fixing something or providing, you know, and in this moment, so much has been taken away. We've now seen those shocking numbers with unemployment right now, and those that are, you know, struggling to feed their children, and those vulnerable families out there. There are millions of families right now struggling, you know, so this is a moment of compassion. This is a moment of us with empathy and having patience and being able to talk to our partners and to check in with them. You know, what can I do for you? You know, how are you feeling right now? It's so important for our family to be able to be consistent with what we're saying to our children, because it provides, pandemic or not, this front of us being a team together. And a team together means to be accountable for one another. Because if you're not well, then I'm not well, then we're not well. It's not I, it's not myself, it's we. A family is we. So our messaging, our mindfulness in the language that we use, and how we together stay present is what brings us to a place of being able to really work together as a team. So for any of those families right now that say, I'm this way, but my partner's not, the likely chances were that this was a problem before the pandemic, because I really do believe that the pandemic has highlighted a lot of issues that were already there for many, many families, whether it was about the importance of communication and your partner hearing you and really validating emotionally how you have been feeling for a long time, or your partner feeling that they could express how they felt without you reacting. This is a moment of validating, listening, communicating without interruption, and being able to support one another's needs together, as well as how can I help you? How can I help you? You know, so we're in a we moment right now. And that's not just partnerships, it's family, it's community, it's country, it's world, is we right now. You know, Mother Nature has taken a big breath, and we need to stop and inhale and exhale and take a big breath and recognize what's the priority, because we're being asked to really move with action under the word we. How can we help each other? How can we help our family? How can we help our community? How can we help our neighbors? How can we help others from afar? You know, and I'm hoping that this opportunity gives many families to just take a minute to think about actually what I've said, because it's much bigger. It requires us to survive and to live with one another with more love and harmony when we can do we rather than individualism and I. The world is a place for that. It would be a better place for that, you know?
Yeah, I love that. So I've been speaking to a lot of parents in preparation for this episode, and I have been literally calling up friends, family, emailing people, like, what are the things you want to know from the Supernanny? And a thing that came up over time and time again was the comparison trap. So right now, a lot of parents are saying, like, I'm just not doing a good enough job. I'm looking over here and I'm seeing so-and-so doing everything. I'm seeing this person, she's got 3 kids and she's helping the world. And I'm just freaking struggling to get up in the morning. That's a real issue that I've heard a lot of parents say. How does that person, because I understand the people that aren't going through that, to give empathy to those people. But what if you're one of those people right now that's like, I really want to help, but in looking external, it's actually making me feel worse because I'm starting to feel like I can't do anything right.
Focus on what you are doing, because yes, it's always been there though. It never, it was there before the pandemic. You know, the keeping up with the Joneses. And to be honest with you, it's also been exasperated by Instagram and, you know, mummy bloggers to some degree, you know, because behind some of those lives is not really what it's like. You know, it's the imagery, right, of it's perfect, it's great, look, we made the art and it's all lovely. Yeah. It's all fantastic. Your kids are alive. Your kids are alive. And you right now are in a space where you are doing as much as you possibly can. And that is good enough. That is good enough. And I can't give you that, Mary. I cannot give you that magic fairy dust that is going to make everything okay, just as much as I tell families that it's a difficult pill to swallow when you go to work and you feel guilty because you wish that you were more at home. right? But it is about self-acceptance of where you are right now. And if you're getting up and you're getting through some form of homeschooling, you're doing some, right? And your kids right now are in a space where they can socialize with their friends, and you can connect with your children and have fun and silly times with them, and you can still be productive together as a family, right? In the things that you get done under house little chores that you do. It's good enough. It's good enough. Let those do what they do and focus. Focus on your family and what's important to your family right now, because that is all that is required right now, is you being present with your family. And if you have time, if you find yourself that you have a moment to be able to pick up that phone and have a chat, not just for their sake, but for yours as well, to be able to talk to others and to sit down for a minute with a cup of coffee, do so. For a lot of families, they're getting up and having to do so many things right now, juggle work, schedule meetings, as well as different age children, or an elderly parent right now that needs, medication. So the only person that is going to cut you some slack right now is yourself. And right now you're doing a good enough job, because you're getting up and you're being productive, and your kids are loved, and you're connecting together, and you're doing what you can. So I'm telling you, you've got to somehow recognize to let it go. You have to let it go, because there's enough on your plate already. You don't need to add more onto your plate. Lisa, we live in a world where we would commend those families that were spinning 30 plates. Look at that mother. 30 plates. And she's knackered. She looks exhausted.
Right.
She's drained. She's overscheduled. The children are overscheduled. She hasn't been out on a date night for ages. The children haven't even been able to talk to her, and they're 15 and 18. So we need to be able to recognize that the journey is being able to have less plates to spin, and to actually be okay with that, and that doesn't happen overnight. But let them do themselves, and you focus and be present on doing yours. And again, that comes from the little rituals that we do, perhaps for a family over breakfast time, because now we have the beautiful opportunity to come together and have breakfast together and have lunches and dinners. I used to hear all the time with families, we don't have time to eat together. The art of sitting around a table is lost. Now it's not. Now we get to sit around a table. Now we get our older kids to be able to cook up a meal for us, or do theme night foods for whatever we can get in our pantry. Now we get a moment to have movie nights, right? And now we have an opportunity to come together and go for family walks, or to play a game, together, or to be able to learn something new with our older child or younger one, or maybe they're going to teach us, as family, an opportunity to bond, maybe friendships that we've only just begun to meet, and now we have an opportunity, to engage more. So it's really how you make a choice to wake up every morning in those circumstances. Because if you're always going to look at what you don't have, then you're never going to be content. I don't have this yet. I don't have that yet. My neighbor has this. Why don't I have that? No, you may not have a garden, but we have the opportunity right now to go out and be mindful as a family and take a walk, together, right? We have an opportunity to be able to talk to our partners about perhaps things that were troublesome before the pandemic that we can really thoroughly communicate. And an opportunity, may I say, not just to resolve, but also to commend, also to praise, also to be thankful.
Dude, that was so much amazing advice. I didn't want to stop you because you were so fire. One thing that literally gave me the chills when you said it is, your children are loved. Like that freaking hit me. I didn't want to stop you, but I literally got chills all the way up my arms. It hit me so hard because it really doesn't, you say it a lot, but you're just like, it's simple, right? It's like we want to make it complicated. We want to like.
We do, not we want. I think a lot of the time, and I say this again, I am not minimizing parenting at all. I've been in the parental arena for 30 years. I've been in the trenches with those families. I know those moments when it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, I need a glass of wine.
Right.
You know, I know those moments when you're pulling your hair out. I know those moments when your teenager has just confronted you and you're like, oh my God, like, is this really happening? I'm seeing a mini me in front of me and it's winding me up. Like, I know the great and the bad that comes with that. So I'm not minimizing that, but we can make things complicated. And, you know, it was only last night I was speaking to a friend who has a couple of children, you know, and they were concerned because it was one of their little one's birthday, and they couldn't give them the birthday that they wanted to give them. And the parents are working, and it was like, and I couldn't give them this, and I couldn't give them that, and I couldn't do this, and we don't really give them. And I'm like, look what you are giving them, but look what you are giving them. You're teaching them how to be more resilient. You're teaching them to enjoy the moments that they are on their own and the moments when you come together. They are loved. They know they are loved. They know they are loved by your actions. And for those children that don't understand, let it go, because there will be a time when they are old enough and we'll be able to look back on this as history and say, yeah, that was a time when that happened. It was a moment in history and you were this age and you didn't quite understand and you were like, I want to see my boyfriend and I don't care, I can't see my friends.
Yeah.
I go here. You know, I want to go Disneyland. Why can't we go Disneyland? And you'll be able to explain. And it's the same that I say to parents all the time when they're not in a before the pandemic. It was right now. There is a reason why, because you love, you protect. You're there to take care and give guidance with your children, and they're not always going to understand it, and you're not always going to wake up and keep them happy every day, but be okay with that, because when they're older they'll get it, they'll understand, and that's the main thing.
But what do you do in that moment? But what do you do in that moment when you feel like you're about to break, right? Because I love that. Let's say your teenager's freaking out. I want to see my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. Now, look, I totally get in the future. You can say, they'll understand in the future. But right now, in this very moment, as a parent, I can imagine you're ready to lose your shit because you've got all this input. People are frustrated, especially kids. The hormones are just raging. And so now as a parent, you're taking this in. How do you calm down enough so that you don't freak out, so that you don't lose your shit? Because you're only going to then beat yourself up later for losing your shit.
Which would be advice that I would give, pandemic or not, right? So you see what we're talking about are circumstances that are highlighted now because we're at home, because we're present. They were always there, but we were distracted. We're not distracted now by this. It's present there in our faces. It's coming up every day. It's allowing us to have teachable moments. This period in time is allowing us to have teachable moments with our children. It requires us as the adults to have more refrain. It requires us to have more patience. It requires us not to lead with our ego and have the last word. It requires us to explain, to remain calm, and to be able to recognize what's going to keep us in that space. Number one, reach out to your partner and turn around and let them know if right now you're having a day that's difficult. Like, emotionally, I'm feeling really heightened right now, and I'm feeling really tired, and I'm feeling like I'm going to lose my shit, you know? And when we can talk honestly about how we're feeling, it gives us an opportunity for our partners or those that are with us to be able to say, take 5, go and run a hot bath. You know what? Go and put your headsets on. Actually, go and take a jog for 20 minutes. Maybe go and take a walk around the neighborhood. Come back. I've got this for a minute. If you're a single parent, then you know what? Instill those boundaries in place. Everybody should be having quiet time anyway. Individual time. Okay, it's like I need 15 minutes, I need 30 minutes. Everybody's going to take 30 minutes or 45 minutes. You can go in that room, I'm going to go in that room. I just need to do a space right now. I need me right now. You need you right now, because otherwise we're on top of each other like rats in a lab, like this, right? And maybe it's a moment where you really just want to be on your own. Or maybe it's a moment where you need to pick up the phone and say, God, I tell you, how many more hours? I'm really feeling it today. And your friend says something that makes you laugh, and it shifts your energy into a different space, which brings me on to saying that when we feel that we are just petering down in our mood or where we're at, and we feel a little bit agitated, we can feel it, we can feel the energy. Recognize the things that you can do to shift that energy, because it really is all about energy. Parents create energy in a home environment that bring a space for the family, children to thrive. And that can be certainly stopped and crippled energetically if we feel our mood dip. So it's kind of like when adults walk into a room and you say, God, you could cut the room with a knife. You can feel it. So it's the same in a home. So what can you do to shift that? Maybe it's music. Maybe it's watching a comedy show. Maybe it's just a group of friends that do make you laugh with the things that they do. There are many things that every individual will have something that uplifts them. It's a certain type of music, whether that's grunge music, calypso music, pop music, reggae, whatever it is, it's going to be able to shift. So I think it's a time of inward as well, because it allows us to be able to recognize what can bring us to that space. If you're feeling, Lisa, like, oh, I feel a bit heavy, I feel like I'm dragging my feet, what music do you listen to?
100% I put on either Britney Spears or Madonna, and I sing it from the top of my lungs.
Right. Well, so you have that. I love reggae, right? I love reggae music. So I put on some Buju Banton, or I put on some Bob Marley. I put some reggae music.
That's
totally
amazing.
Shifts my vibe. Totally shifts me, right? So again, it is energetic because it's how we can shift. But that also is supported with two things that go together. And one is movement and the other is food. Food makes sure that we don't dip in our blood sugar levels, and it stops that irritable feeling, and for younger children getting very agitated. So the consistency of 3 main meals and some snacks are important, and being able to look at what we can get and to get creative allows us to be able to keep that at an even keel. And we know through facts, scientific facts, that when we can move, we create more oxytocin, more dopamine, more serotonin, and chemically what that does up here is not only make us feel good, but it makes us feel very encouraged and very motivated. And it makes us feel like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it, right? So we have all those wonderful feelings as well. So they go together hand in hand, and they waltz together. Food and movement within our routine, when we provide the boundaries in an energetic space that creates more harmony for us as a family. So when we can take these little bite-sized tips and techniques and instill them, and when they see just the small little baby step they take that makes a huge impact, makes us feel really good. And that feeling is empowerment,
I so love that breakdown. That was so freaking clear and concise. But I'm going to throw you a little curveball here. What if there ends up being a chink in your armor? So what if you had all your steps, let's say boundaries, because that was one that I got a lot from a lot of parents, where it's like, I'm trying to set boundaries, but like I know one person that hides in the bathroom so his kids can't find him. When his kid knows he's in the bathroom, he still knocks on the door, and he says, you need to give me space, you need to give me boundaries. But yet the kid is just at that age where it's like, dad. And now everything kind of falls apart because it's hard for them to even take that first step of the boundaries. So
There's an answer to that. Again, it was before the pandemic and it's here now, and it's not going to go away after the pandemic either, right? So in this case, what happens is that the parent goes into the bathroom and the child starts knocking on the door, and it becomes a chant, right? And it's almost like torture, right? It's the same thing over again. Dad, 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 knock, knock, dad, dad, knock, knock. And the biggest mistake the parent makes is to keep talking to the child. Stop banging. Stop that. Stop banging. Leave me alone. Stop banging. I need 5 minutes. If you ignore and the child keeps banging and you just ignore, actively ignore, because that's what you're doing. You're actively ignoring, knowing that you need that space. What will happen is it will stop, because it's negotiation. If somebody keeps banging and knocking and you're still rewarding them with communication, just keep knocking. Because if you're talking, the next thing you're going to do is move closer to the door. And then the next thing you're going to do is open the door and tell them face to face. So be resolute in knowing that once you've closed the door in the bathroom, that is the boundary. The door. Ignore. And if you're telling me you're a parent that can't let go, I bet you're the parent that has to have the last word either as well, right? So put earplugs in or put headphones on right now to minimize the noise if you're feeling very heightened or sensitive, because it's also a time where a lot of families who are very sensitive and very stressed can create an overload of sensory processing, right? So the noise breaks. Everything feels a little bit more heightened. So put some earplugs in, put some headphones on with some relaxing music, and actively ignore that chant, because what will happen is you won't reward the child and you'll see it will stop. Because at the end of the day, even when you've done that, it will only be your actions, your behavior that will change other people's behavior around you. And boundaries and healthy boundaries are necessary for your own sanity. So again, it's being unapologetic for recognizing that if you can create more refrain, a schedule that allows you to get the sleep that you need, healthy space and boundaries, you'll be a much better parent for it. You feel good for it, and you'll be able to have more tolerance, more patience, more empathy, more understanding. Certainly your auditorial skills will get better, your communication, and generally overall what we're talking about again is family wellness. It's family,
Yeah, the last thing I really want to cover, which I think is extremely important, and I am totally with you that we don't know where this is going to go. But let's take right now, the thing that I hear a lot of parents that are worried about is the rejoining society. And I've heard from different sides of the coin. I've heard parents that are like, my kid, and this is literally a story, my kid is so scared that if he steps outside, he's going to die. He won't step outside, and he's like 5 years old. And then what about the kid that's the opposite, where they're like, they've been so trapped, let's say they're teenagers, you educate them, you give them the facts, but they're just freaking teenagers. So they just want to rebel. They want to go outside and hang out with their friends. So they're on the opposite spectrum, where now they're just being completely careless.
Yeah. There's no compromise with this. There's no compromise. And I've been very vocal about this. For any 5-year-old that is feeling very anxious, it is one baby step at a time. So it's going out maybe for 10 minutes. And it's about the language that you use that's non-threatening or invasive. It's about safety. It's about them recognizing through your own language and your compassion, because we will be dealing with heightened anxiety for those young children, the importance of their food, their exercise, their sleep. All of those are really key points in reducing anxiety for young children. So the importance of being consistent with that is incredibly vital. And then we take the steps of stepping out, one step at a time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, we keep our children amused and certainly engaged by keeping them mindful on those walks at that age. What birds can you spot out I'm sure I can see, a yellow finch. Can you spot a yellow bird in the trees because they're around everywhere? Or let's play I Spy. Oh, look at that rock. Look, so it's about engagement in that capacity, because it draws our child away from the thought patterns of thinking the worst. And then we work on the vital keys to reduce that anxiety. For the older child, it's about recognizing that once we have those facts, we, as the parent, are making sure we can protect our children so that we are in the parameters of making sure that our kids are still safe. And look, I'm no expert on the pandemic, but I'm listening to the scientists right now. And they're the people we do need to be listening to with respect to their wisdom and their expertise of what we should be doing,
And so is that what you would say to the teenagers then? Like, you'd break it down. I've been listening to the experts. This is the conclusion I've come to. This is the rule I'm implementing, and you will live
Correct.
by it.
And this is why we are doing this, because there is no vaccine. And if you have teenagers right now who are out, then they're going to be of a certain age, right, where you feel that they can be out in other company on their own. And right now, that's not an option. Right now, that's not an option. And it's okay for us to say to our children, when they say to us, well, am I going to be able to go out in August? Am I going to be able to go and see my friends? Like, what am I going to be able to do? I don't know the answer to that right now, because right now I'm collecting the information that allows me to be able to let you know what will be allowed in order to keep you safe. And that's not just for your 15-year-old, that's for your young adult as well, to have the consideration in recognizing that they may be still living under your roof and actually, implementing certain behavior that puts the whole family at risk. So it's a conversation where you have to come around the round table and talk with common sense about accountability for each family member. So we have to cross those bridges when we get to them based on the information that's out there. So as parents, being responsible and accountable for the welfare and, I am going to say it, survival of your family, then you take heed to the scientific facts and the information that's being given, and you parent. You are not your children's friend. You're the parent, and you do what is going to keep them safe. And if they don't like it, that's tough. That's tough. And I'm sorry that you feel that way, but it's my job to keep us all safe as your parent. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So here are the rules. Let's talk about what you can do, not what you can't do. Let's talk about the cup being half full and what you can do right now. Because if you get yourself into that hole, then you're going to dig it deeper. And I don't want parents to feel right now in this space that they have to keep, under the circumstances, their children happy all the time. It's not your job to keep your kids happy all the time. You will never succeed at doing that. No one succeeds at doing that. It's your job right now to keep yourself safe and your family safe right now. And there is no compromise with that. And as you've said, I don't sugarcoat. There is no compromise with that, because nothing, and unfortunately, excuse me for saying this, but again, it's the reality of this conversation we're having. Nothing equals death. It's the queen on the chessboard, and death don't play, and it's final. It's final. So there's no compromise there for me as a parent, as a grandmother, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister. And I am absolute in that, So I'm hoping that for those families that are listening today, I hope that you step forward with courage in recognizing that it's your sole job right now as parents, as your children's guardian, right? To navigate a pathway that creates harmony for your children so that they can thrive in times like this. and to provide an energetic space that we call home and sanctuary, with love and cuddles and affection and laughter and moments of vulnerability, but we'll get through it anyway. It's your job to survive, to keep your kids safe, to protect them. And if it means what you have to say they're not happy with, that's okay. That's okay.
I love that you said that so much, because I know so many parents that are struggling because they just want to see their kids happy, and they find that they judge themselves based on if their kid is happy or not, and they judge themselves as good or bad parents based on that. And I so love that you said that.
It's necessary. As I say, what's happened is, time has gone on, and people are now becoming impatient, and people are wanting now. And I think it's a reflection of who we are in society right now. We want everything yesterday. We want immediate gratification. We want things done now. We want fix-its tomorrow. And it's like, this is not that. This is learning to feel okay with how uncomfortable things feel right now, and what that means for us. So parents, be your loving selves, see this as an opportunity, a teachable moment. Take the breaks when you need them, okay? You are human. And remember, your kids, they go through the same stuff as we do. They have their off days. They have their days when they're just like, oh, I just want to go back to bed again, They have those moments as well. Cut yourself some slack, but you do what you need to do as parents to stay alive, to keep your kids healthy and safe. So when you have to put your foot down, you have to put your foot down, and do it unapologetically, because it's coming from the right space, from here, the heart,
Boom. That was freaking amazing. I don't have kids, and I can literally keep talking to you for like hours and hours, women. Your advice is so freaking strong. And so I just want to say thank you for all of that. But before I go, I can't believe I get to ask the super nanny what her superpower is. But what is your superpower?
I would say empathy. Yeah, I would say empathy. I'm an empath. So I feel more than most people personally feel. So I would say it's definitely a gift, being an empath and being empathic. Yeah.
100%.
That would be my superpower. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so where can people find you? Where can people find the show that you're doing? Where can all the amazing things that you're up to?
Well, there's lots of family advice. So lots of families right now are also going through transitions, and they're wanting generic, family advice. So you can go to joefrost.com for that. I'm also providing public service for families who need help. So families who have concerns, or they're going through issues right now and they want some counselling. They want to be able to pick my brain for a few things, and that can be done on the Twitter, which is Joe_Frost, or Instagram, Joe Frost. They're the social media platforms in being able to reach me. And if you go to joefrost.com, you'll see it says Contact Joe. And if you go there, you can drop me an email. But of course, if you send an email, don't be surprised if you get a phone call from me.
That's amazing. Guys, go check out this woman. I've been such a freaking huge fan for years and years. And so you got to go check out her website, check out her videos. All her advice is so freaking fire. You just got to go and follow this woman. If you or your friends or someone you know has kids, let me tell you, follow her. She'll give you massive advice. And if you're not following me, follow me at Lisa Bilyeu. And if you're not subscribed, guys, click that subscribe button. Share this video with any parent out there that could use it. And until next time, be the hero of your own life. Peace out, guys.
What up guys, Lisa here. Thanks so much for watching this episode. And if you haven't already subscribed, click that little button right in front of you. Click, click, click away. We release episodes every Wednesday, so be sure to get notified. Till next time, go be the hero of your own life.